Okay, hello everyone. Welcome back. Wow, isn't life interesting? I had I've had moments in my life where I thought I knew the way that things worked in life, and then later only to find out that it was totally not right. It was wrong. So I recently watched a compelling docu-series on Netflix called Outcry of a fascinating story of a high school football star, Greg Kelley, who was arrested, convicted, and jailed for sexual assault of a 4-year-old boy. He had a slew of supporters that rose up to fight for the truth of Greg's innocence and justice. And my husband and I watched it together, and we were just so inspired by this story. So I'm truly honored today to speak with Greg Kelley and his beautiful wife, Gabi. So welcome to the two of you, my dears. Welcome.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so Greg, let's go into the day. So you were 18 years old, right? And you were arrested, right?
Mm-hmm.
So one of the first things that for me was amazing to see was, first of all, I have to tell you that I feel like I can read people's energy really well. And I literally looked at my husband. I'm like, no way. Like this guy, no way. Right. Oh. And I'm sure you've heard that. Have you heard that many times since?
Yeah, we've heard that a couple times. Yeah, it's quite amazing. I mean, I didn't really. The biggest thing for me is I just don't necessarily know how to continue to tell people that I didn't do something, and just to sit here and nobody necessarily listened to me. I just tried to put my best foot forward and just be myself throughout the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, you could see that. You could see that, and just yeah. So you get arrested 18, right? You get offered a plea bargain. This was a big moment. I want to go through some of my big ahas and big takeaways from the series. And you're offered down to 5 years of jail time and a lifetime of saying, hey, I'm a sexual offender, right?
Yes.
Yeah. The first thing that just for me in the heart was your mom, right? Where she's like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at these two things. Because I'm a mom. I actually have, how old are the two of you?
I'm 25.
25.
Okay, so we actually have a daughter who will be 24 this year. So our daughter is almost your age. And so as a mom looking at this, it's like seeing it from that standpoint, and I just could really feel your mom's viewpoint throughout the series, but where she's like, honey, like, can you just admit, oh, it was 5 years probation is what it was, right?
Yeah, so it
wasn't even possibly jail time.
Yeah, that's right. So of course, this type of crime, the seriousness of this crime that they're accusing me of, it holds 25 to life in prison if you get found guilty. That's without parole, and that's day for day. So before, of course, the trial, we had to sit down with my attorney, and my attorney heard some word from the prosecutors that the first offer, this is before jury selection, the first offer was 10 years probation, of course, lifetime sex registration, a certain amount of fines, and a certain amount of days in jail, but not prison. And so I immediately said no. I said, no, I declared I wanted a speedy trial. I'm going to go out there and fight this thing. And then, Patricia Cummings, my original attorney, went over to the prosecutor, and they then came back with 5 years probation. And at that point, it was very disrespectful. Not only are they trying to pursue me as the guy and target me as the guy, and I'm the face that did the crime, and you need to go away for a long time because you're in Williamson County. That's kind of how our county operated too. But it was so disrespectful that they for sure wanted to go and ruin my life. And just to seal a conviction, they tried to offer me 5 years probation and a certain amount of days in jail, and a certain amount of fines and lifetime registration and all that. And not only is that disrespectful to me, but there's this guy that still runs out there that did this crime that this victim's not getting justice for. So it's disrespectful for the victim. And
Yeah.
so, because you're trying to seek justice. So it's just a huge game on all levels. And so and of course that was super hard. Of course, you saw it in the documentary. It was super hard to see my broken mother crying, sitting in that room. And she was telling me, think about it, think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah.
I don't want you to go away forever. And I'm broken, she's broken. And I talked to Gabriel, and Gabriel, reminds me who I am and what we're fighting for. And so I honestly, I didn't know how I just rounded up the strength to say no when a lot of people would have taken it, because they knew that they were going to be able to go home. And it was a fight.
Wow. So as a mom's perspective, I can see how your mom, because me going to my son, right? Because I also have a 21-year-old son, to go, whoa, wait, I don't want my baby to go to jail. I don't want you, or prison, or wherever, because I don't know what can happen to you, you know?
Yeah.
But then as a wife, Gabriel, because I'm also a wife, my
Yeah.
husband is going to, and I know at the time you weren't married, but still, like, you had this very strong bond, love, and it's like, no, you're not doing that.
Yeah.
You can't have that on you for the rest of your life, right? So tell me about your call to Gabriel when you were, you listened to your mom, and your call to her, what she said to you.
What I remember from it is I remember calling her because Gabriel was the last person I wanted to talk to about this before I made a decision. And just in the atmosphere of how serious and how unexpected all this is, I talked to her, and she told me just to remember who I am and what we're fighting for. And I remember both of us just having a really, instinctive thought of, what am I doing? Like, I cannot go out there and tell the world I did something I didn't do. I can't live with it. I would not be able to live another day of my life and be at home with an ankle monitor on, knowing I just ruined my life. And what if I stood up and fought? What if I stood up and fought for my life and went to trial? Unfortunately, there was a bad ending to the first trial, but I think there was a lot of things that played out later on. Little stones were turned over later on that um, eventually corrected itself, and I'm here now. So
Yeah. Wow. So tell me what happened tell me just that moment of when you heard that verdict, guilty.
I can't remember a lot of it. I remember watching a video.
Yeah.
It was just a big blackout for me. It was just all these emotions hitting me at the same time. I mean, I was as red as a tomato. I felt like, but one thing I do remember is I felt like somebody murdered me. I felt like I was murdered. If you could feel what it feels like to be murdered without dying, that's what it would feel like, because everybody just stripped your whole life and everything you worked hard for away from you. Strip the number one thing I believe is one of the greatest things in life, which is freedom. And sitting on this end of knowing what it feels like to unjustly get freedom stripped from you, I don't take any of it for granted. Every day is a blessing to wake up and be an American and do awesome things and hop in a car and go wherever I want to go. And those are things that at one point, involuntarily, I took for granted, just going through the motions in everyday life. And so that moment, I don't remember a lot of it, but I do remember a lot of crying, a lot of squealing. Everybody I remember that just when they said verdict, I remember hitting my head on the table. And I just remember saying, I didn't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it. And I don't remember the look I gave the prosecutor. I did see it on video that the local news captured, and it was on the documentary. But I gave the prosecutor like the dirtiest look I would ever give anybody. I'm not a mean guy. So
Yeah.
And so that came from a really dark place. And so it felt like I died really. And
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. So Gabri, my dear, you were such a young girl with all
Yeah.
of this, but had such strength and such wisdom. Like, did you feel like this was when he was in jail? What was going through your mind? Did you feel like this is all going to work out? Like, tell me about that. What was on
Yeah,
you at that
I
moment?
feel like I was really naive when he first went in. I felt like, if there is a justice system, we're gonna get it right. And if we fight, then he would be out. I honestly thought when he first went to jail, he'd go for a little bit and then we'd get it all straightened out. We'd find the person that did it. But as time went on, I was really lucky to have all the support that I had, my family, his family, Jake Bryden, like you met him in the documentary, and all these people that encouraged me to keep fighting. And we're kind of like my backbone the whole time. And him being so positive in there, I think that's what really like shaped me into the woman I was during all this, is so strong. Because I was extremely naive. I knew nothing about jail and prison and the justice system and how it worked and how long it takes. It was a process, but I think as time went on, so many people helped me, stay strong for him. And he also encouraged me to stay super strong for him. So I was really lucky in that way.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, Jake Bryden. Wow. When we were watching it, I like turned to my husband and I was like, wait, who is this guy again? Like, is
That's
he an
everybody's
attorney?
Everyone's
reaction.
like,
Yeah.
Would you say everybody does that?
Yeah,
yeah.
everybody was like, "Where'd this guy come from?" He like came from left field out of nowhere, wanting to answer a call that nobody would answer.
Yep.
To go fight for a guy who was being painted as a monster, you don't know if he did it or not, and you're gonna step up and fight for him because you felt this calling, this thing, this fire that got lit in your soul. You're gonna go and fight for the guy. Like I don't think I would do that. And so like that's something that really just like at first we were real questioning him, like, who is this guy? Like, is he on the
He's an
other side,
angel.
or
Yeah.
is he on the other side, or is he
Marvel.
like, is he an angel? Like what? Yeah, it was a big question mark until I got to meet Jake, talk to him. Actually, I did not meet him actually directly until I returned back from county jail after prison before my innocence hearing. I didn't actually get to meet him. My whole family
Yeah,
did and everything.
you just heard about him.
I just heard about him. I just heard that
You're like, who's this guy?
this guy was my mouthpiece out in the world, fighting for me, holding rallies with a megaphone on a
Yeah,
television.
he's like got his arm up in the air. He's like,
Yeah, and
that's
it's
awesome.
amazing. It's unbelievable. And to this day, Jake and I have a phenomenal brotherly relationship. Um, and it's crazy how everything just falls into place like that, and how unexpected life
Wow.
is. It gives you brothers, that you
Yeah.
you cherish forever.
I am sure that you guys are going to be forever friends for sure. So I loved the part too where you were like, I thought you were an angel until you opened your mouth.
Yeah.
So that was awesome. So funny. But with Jake, that to me is what I call a soul contract all day long. So a soul contract, I don't know. So it's really before we ever even came here that we made these agreements with people that when we come here, we're going to show up for them. And to me, when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's a soul contract all day long. But pretty fascinating and interesting. But I could relate to Jake in the sense that I have this, the more mature I get, the more I realize I have this activist heart, so when I see something that I also feel intuitively is wrong, because it's really not about like, hey, let me look at the facts, because I think he was really going based on what he knew in his heart and what he could feel. And he even said from the get-go, like, if I see anything, I'm out, I'm done, peace out. But he was going based on what he felt in his heart was the truth, and he stepped up. So cool. I love it. So what was interesting to me, because I had some crazy things happen to me as a child, and I have trauma as a child, but just because I have trauma as a child doesn't mean that this person's guilty, right? It means nothing. It means nothing. It means that, yes, of course, listen to children and validate children and rise up and take it serious. But the fact that there was literally unbelievable, no evidence, none. I would feel that looking at the documentary now, for a lot of people that participated in it, if they were speaking against you, that they would feel really embarrassed in a sense. But I know that's over with and done. But still, I just feel like a big takeaway from the movie is just because something happened, you can't just assume that it's this way. You know what I mean? Because
Right.
we do that. Like we do that where we'll hear, oh, this person was, being accused of this. We just automatically go, oh my gosh, that's so awful, so they're guilty. It's like, no, that's not the case. So that was interesting to me. I learned a lot about the system, and I'm sure you guys know a lot more than most people, but I had no idea they could change the date. That was insane to me.
I don't know if
Yeah.
they're allowed to, but I think they just did that.
Yeah, they so there's like, I don't know, there's a lot of gray area in that, and honestly I wish that we could rise up as a society to not allow there to be gray area and leeway for people to change the date. But technically, in good faith, you're not supposed to. You're supposed to figure out what the date is, and base off that date, go and find the facts. Not, okay, this date's not giving me what I need, so I'm going to go ahead and create a 3-month window to make sure that he is pinpointed in that house. That's technically what happened, is that they said a certain date. I wasn't there at that certain date. They knew that. So therefore, they made a 3-month window where they conformed whatever they're trying to find to a window. And so it was really sad to see that, because we went up and beyond. I mean, I went up and beyond and gave up anything and everything, my laptop, my cell phone, everything, to prove digitally that I didn't do this. I mean, I was literally 60 miles away helping my brother move when they said that this happened. And so it was very disappointing and heartbreaking to hear that that's how I was treated. So
yeah, you would think, because I thought before, like, oh my gosh, what if you did get framed for something? But if you have an alibi where people know you were not there on that day, of course that would never hold up in court. But that's what was so unbelievable, is there were so many things that you were just at the mercy of the system, really. So what do you feel like, I ask this question to both of you, so whoever wants to go first, but what do you feel like, well, we'll have you go first, Greg. What do you feel like you have learned? What have been some big lessons from this whole situation, this whole experience?
wow, there's so many. Wow, I mean, that's like a 2-hour answer, honestly, because now that I'm 25 years old, I don't feel like I'm 25. I feel like I have the mental capacity and the experiences of a 60-year-old man, because the adversity that I've dealt with, we've talked about this actually yesterday. Our life is so unexpected. I mean, who knew that when I was 18 years old, I would have to carry the burden of being falsely accused of a crime, but just not any crime, the most frowned upon crime in the history of humankind, and have to juggle that with an 18-year-old mind, body, and soul, and then get falsely accused, wrongfully convicted, sent away to like the wilderness. I call it the wilderness, because it is literally where people are cast away that can't fit in society. So having to survive that and go through all the bad things that happen there, all the violence, all the lonely nights, all the the gang activity and having to maneuver through all of that just to survive, not only survive, but survive as a child molester.
Yeah.
Hardest thing in the world. Yeah, I wouldn't even wish it on my worst enemy. But going through all of that, and now being 25 and getting my life back and picking back up, I don't take freedom for granted. You know, I said it earlier, is I wake up every day completely grateful to just wake up, have a cup of coffee, turn on whatever on the TV, get in my truck, enjoy having a truck, and just feel a sense of independence and not have to ask somebody when to eat, when to shower, when to do any of that, just being independent. You know, something as small as just getting, her and I were doing a long distance thing right now. We've done a long distance thing for 3 years, in the worst of circumstances, you know, maintaining love through letters, continuing to fall in love with each other through letters. Something I think that in today's society can't understand, because we've developed this where we need to you know, physically touch each other and go on dates to fall in love and this and that. And that was really hard for us because that's what we knew. So we challenged to get to know each other's hearts and get to fall in love with that. So all the other stuff like going on dates and being intimate and all of that just fell right in place. And so I, you know, I don't take, you know, being her husband and living a life with her for granted, because being apart from her, you can only know and feel the hopelessness of not having the person next to you if you've distanced yourself from them. So each and every day, whenever I get to see her now, she's up here, she's been up here for a week. We've been trying to have the best time that we can, you know, and I think that we've had a great time in making it work, because I've tried to pick back up on my life playing football and getting education. So I think the biggest thing that I get from all this is to just be as free as I possibly can be, and don't necessarily stress about anything. And if something does happen where we have to face adversity and we have to just face it face to face, we know we can overcome it, because quitting is not an option for us.
Wow. Yes. Oh, I love that. That's so profound. So now you're in Michigan and you're
Yes,
playing football.
yeah, I'm in a little town called Ypsilanti, Michigan. We call it Ypsi. It's a little college town. I go to Eastern Michigan University, and I play football for them.
Okay.
I've been here for this is my second semester here, so I have a lot of eligibility to play some football. So I got like 4 years of eligibility to play football. So we're gonna see where it takes us, but I'm gonna continue to play ball until to see what the future holds for us.
Yeah, awesome. I love it. And Gabriel, you're in Texas.
Yep, I'm in Texas, Austin, Texas.
Okay, cool. So what do you feel like you've learned over the past, how many, 7 years? Is that how long it's been?
Yeah.
8 years, 7 years?
8 years? Oh,
Yeah.
Something between that.
Yeah.
It's been a long time. I mean, I'm kind of where he's at, where it was so many life lessons in a short young part of our life. And I think one of the biggest things, a few big things, were one was patience. I was so impatient before all of this happened. And I learned that I have to be patient, and some things take time, especially if it's going to have a good outcome. So patience was a huge one. Relationships was a really big one. I didn't know how important it was to have good people around you. And, you know, those people are going to have you when you fall, and have you in bad situations and encourage you and lift you up. And the biggest thing I think is love, because I don't know if I would have experienced this type of love if we didn't go through what we went through. Like you said, we had to write letters, and we were separated, and we had these little short 20-minute phone calls that were recorded. So like everything you say is, you know, being monitored. And it was just such a different love story that I would never, ever expected for, you know, whoever I marry or whoever I'm dating. And it really challenged us, but I think it was for the best. And It's honestly like a beautiful love story when I look back at it. And when we talk about it, we're very, very grateful for everything we've kind of been through. Even though it's terrible, we've had such a good outcome from it. So I think, yeah, I experienced this different kind of love that I don't know if I ever would have experienced if I wasn't put, or he wasn't put in this situation.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. So when you were in jail, did you have to go, like, how long did you have to go before you could see each other? Like, were you able to go to the jail and visit him?
I mean, there were times where I remember when he first went in, there was like a couple months where I didn't even like hear from him. I didn't know if he was alive. I didn't know if he was hurt. Because it takes a while for you to get in the system. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's
A long time.
like so whenever when you go to prison in Texas, you go through something called a diagnostic phase, where you have to go through like an intake process where you can't have communication with the outside world, you can't get commissary, and so I couldn't use a phone. I just literally was in a tank with a bunch of other people, and you get sent to like psychology, and you get sent to sociology, and you go through all these tests through intake, and then you get spit to general population, and you get to start, communicating with your family again. So that's what she's talking about.
Wow.
Yeah.
So 2 months without even knowing how he was doing at all.
Yep. And then it was just letters for a couple months because it took even longer for you to get on the phone system. So we would just write letters. And we continued the letters for all the years he was in there.
Yep.
And then were you able to go in and see him?
Yeah. So I lived in Los Angeles when he was in prison. I was going to stay in Texas, but he was the one that encouraged me. I'd always dreamed to be a professional dancer. So he's like, you have to go, you have to continue to follow your dreams. You have to still live your life while I'm in here. So I did. And anytime I would literally fly back and forth from Los Angeles to Texas to visit him. And those visits were, they were everything we could get, but it was not what I would want. You just sit across from a table and you kiss one time in front of an officer while they watch you and you hug, and then you have to sit like really far away and just talk. And it's not the best.
Wow.
Yeah, it wasn't the best. It was a 2-hour visit, and you get to see each other. You get to hug and embrace each other for like 15 seconds, and then go and sit down for the rest of the time, and then say goodbye for 15 seconds and leave.
Yep.
Wow. Wow. So when you were in there, so you say it was really scary. I can imagine as an 18-year-old, I think you were 19 when you went in, I believe, right?
Yeah, I was 19.
So I actually just did an interview with somebody that went to prison for, I don't know, like 6 years, I think. And he was saying that they divided out into race. Did that happen or is there anything you want to share as far as your experience that, like, what was it like? I'm sure it was scary, but.
Yeah, so prison, it's going to be how you make it. It's going to be how you come in and portray yourself as, and it's not a soft place. Let's just say that. It's a place where immediately, if you come in and act a certain way, then you're going to be labeled that. So the biggest thing for me was I wanted to make sure that I knew the ropes, I knew the ropes on how to survive this place. And so I immediately just started just being myself. I didn't want to necessarily, I had to watch my back each and every day. County jail and prison is a little bit different. So county jail, you're kind of just waiting. I was in my cell by myself. They wouldn't put me in general population for my safety. And so whenever I went to prison, I was in like segregation for a few months where I was by myself, and then they put me in general population. And, I requested to go to general population. I could not live and fight for my life inside of a 5x9 cell when I didn't know when I was going to leave that place. So I took the risk of going to general population where everybody's at. And, I faced my challenges, and it was, people did try to fight me, and I did come into conflicts and confrontations. I thank God that I was never stabbed, I was never harmed, and I had to go to the hospital or anything like that. I think how I conducted myself, and just being the guy who makes friends with a lot of people and just plays basketball in the rec yard and goes to college. I think that was the biggest thing that I could have done for myself, was to enroll into college while I was in prison, because I didn't want to go to a prison unit that had the whole population my age. Because when you're 18, 19 years old and you're actually a criminal, you have a criminal mindset, you get thrown with a bunch of people that have the same mind as you. And so to kind of manipulate that, I signed up for college, and I wanted to seek a higher education no matter what. But I signed up for college to manipulate where I went as far as prison units. And so there's no guarantee that you're going to go to a 100% safe unit. But I went to a unit where half the unit was college students and the other half was hardworking, farmers and industrial workers, factory workers. So I manipulated kind of where I went with that. And then from there on out, it was just like a big waiting room. It was like, I think the most successful people in the world develop a routine, right? And you do not go off the track of your routine. So I knew that going in. I learned that is I need to develop a routine to be successful on coming home. So I developed a routine of getting up every morning and drinking my coffee and get ready for work. I go to work, then I go to school, and then I go to lunch, and then I go to chapel, and I go to church, and then I go back to dinner, and I go to rec yard, and then I go back to bed, and I just do it all over again. I did that for 3 years straight. And it didn't feel like the time went by so slow when I did that. And I thank God that I wasn't I didn't become institutionalized, because I chose not to just sit in the day room and play dominoes and watch TV and do things that I wasn't supposed to be doing. I wanted to continue to better myself no matter where I was, no matter my circumstances. I chose to keep growing and to keep praying, to keep developing a communication with her, and to fall in love with her, and stay connected with my family, and just whatever really mattered to me in life and my needs, I put before my wants. And so that's where I'm here now, and I think that's what got me through it.
Wow. So you were able to do all of those things behind a secured space. You weren't able to leave and go to these different places. Is that correct?
Right. So I was at a maximum security unit. So I was on a super max. I was on the most maximum you can get. So, but, I always think as freedom freedom has boundaries, right? And so you just can't go out and do whatever you want in society. So freedom is made with boundaries. So out here, we're free to live in society as, civilians. But in there, the only freedom that you have is within those razor wire fences and those brick walls, and the privileges that are given to you depending on your inmate status. And so like me, I wanted to be the very best inmate that I could possibly be. So when I go home, I can prove to the whole world that I not only didn't do this, but I never belonged in this place, and I was a model inmate. And so I went in there and did what I needed to do to continue growing and going forward. And so you're able to go to college, you're able to go to rec and get these things. Actually, it's crazy, because you're actually able to get this education that like vocationals and stuff like that. You're able actually to get that without the distractions of the rest of the world out here, like paying rent and what society says you need to be and this and that. You're actually able to focus and to grow yourself. So whenever a lot of people that are criminals and did their time, they get to go out and become welders and carpenters and truck drivers and actually get to make a living. So there's actually opportunities to continue growing in there.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that. I had no idea.
Yeah, a lot of programs to better yourself, because that's what prison's supposed to be for, right? It's supposed to be for rehabilitation. Some people actually, they grow up. A lot of criminals in there, they're immature, but some people they make the decision to finally grow up, because a lot of them have families, a lot of them have boys and girls and daughters and sons, and so they decide to grow up and better themselves. And there's programs and opportunities in there for you to do that.
Yeah. Did you make friends with anybody specific?
Yeah, I actually did. I have a small core of friends. There's a saying in prison, you just don't make a lot of friends because they're not your friends. They want something from you. So I didn't make a lot of friends initially. I kind of kept to myself, kind of, did my own thing. And I think naturally, organically, these people, my friends, got put in front of me that had the same, mindset, that had the same faith, that had the same outlook on life. And we naturally just started to vibe, and we ended up doing Bible studies together, and we ended up going to rec and exercising together and going to school together. And so these are guys that have life sentences that were at one point labeled in society as a murderer, but within themselves they feel this type of freedom, that they feel like they've been forgiven, and they're continuing to better themselves, and they're no longer the man that they're no longer that mistake that they made when they're 18 or 19 years old. And so those were the guys that I chose to be around, and I have about 2 or 3 guys that I continue to stay in contact with. One of them's name's Thomas Porter. He taught me how to weld. My second job in prison was an industrial job. I went out and worked in a plastics factory as an injection molder. And so we made like plastic sporks and cups and stuff like that. I was that type of guy. And so he was one of my coworkers, but he was a welder and he was a maintenance guy. So he actually taught me how to weld during our free time out in the factory. And I still maintain communication with him to this day. We write each other's letters, and I continue to support him the best that I can financially, because that guy made a huge impact on my life as far as just getting me through a really crappy situation, and just being there as an ear, as a guy who mentored me, not only with these really, really important values to carry out in life, but also to survive that place called prison. He's been down for 30 years. He's been in prison for 30 years, and he's seen the worst of the worst back when there was race wars back in the 90s in Texas. And he survived it. And so he taught me how to get through that place the best that I can. And I have a couple other guys as well that I continue to make contact with. Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome. I love that. Okay, so Gabi, my dear, what is your message to the world?
Oh my gosh, there's so many things from this. This might sound so cliche, but I've gone by this the whole time once it started, and we would paint this on cars. I don't know if people do this in other states, but in Texas we used to do this, and everyone would write "never give up" on their cars, and that was always my I guess message I stuck to, is like never give up, and things that you believe in, and things that you love, and things that you stand by. And I'm so glad that we never gave up, because we wouldn't be here today married and happy and living our life and have all this freedom. So just never give up.
Yeah, beautiful. Love it. Okay, Greg, what's your message to the world?
Oh man, I got so many. When I first started going through all this, as an 18-year-old kid, it was really hard for me to, how can I put this in words? The biggest thing for me is whenever I wake up and I get to do whatever I want, as far as go and play football and do a passion that I have. I made a commitment to myself when I walked out of those prison doors back with my family, and with my lovely wife, and with my friends, and back into a world where, man, for 5 years of my life, it just seemed like a black hole and a paused screen. And now that I'm 25, picking back up on my 19-year-old life with a far more seasoned mind and a far more seasoned, a lot more experiences and going through adversity. The message that I would give to the world is don't waste another day of your life not doing what you love. Because I'm telling you, I mean, I used to be that guy that just sat down and I would Netflix and chill for like 4 days and just go to practice and just live life with a big question mark. And it's okay to live day for day, and not stress necessarily on what tomorrow brings, but having that those goals that you're striving for, and not just, you never want to be at the end of the day and lay your head down and say, did I accomplish anything today? I want to be able to lay my head down and say, man, I got this done, I got this done, I got this done, and I'm striving towards living a life. So when I'm 60 and 70 years old, I can sit back on my rocking chair and tell some crazy stories about what happened to me when I was 19 years old to my grandkids, and maybe give some advice to 19-year-olds going through a tough time that just got married, and maybe be there for somebody who's getting falsely accused and wrongfully convicted. And I just want to live a fulfilling life that has a lot of awesome events, and just not waste another day of my life just treading water.
Yeah, beautiful. I have a feeling that when you're 60 and 70, you won't be in a rocking chair.
I meant to say 90.
I know.
I meant to say 90.
Like, that's not even that old.
I meant 90 to
You won't be
100.
out on the golf course, snowboarding, skiing. I have a feeling you're going to be like out living life. That's so beautiful, though. So beautiful. I love it. So do you feel like you want to be an advocate now for people that are falsely accused? Do you feel like that's something you want to put your energy into?
I think one day, yeah. Right now, I remember right when I got out, I wanted to, like, I had a huge fire to do that. Me and Jake did, but I felt like that would take so much time out of my life to go and be there for people. And it was a really hard decision to figure out, like, do I want to do that, or do I want to pick back on my passions of maybe playing football again, and getting a college D1 scholarship and go live the life that was just taken from me, and go pick back up and be an inspiration to maybe some other guys that are 25, 26 years old that gave up on their dream because maybe it was just too hard for them. Just give them some inspiration. I know a couple of guys that are close to my age that are picking back up on football because, at 18, 19 years old, they didn't give college a shot, but they were great athletes. And so I want to be able to be that inspiration right now and just pick back up on my life and get my education. I needed to get my education. I'm about to graduate with my bachelor's degree. I want to go to master's school and get my master's degree. I want to, just play as much football as I possibly can that my body can handle, and just say that I did that chapter in my life to kind of go into the next chapter full speed ahead with no regrets. And maybe that's the next chapter of my life, is to go and advocate for people that have been wrongfully convicted. But I do want to get involved with that at some point in my life. Yeah.
That's smart. I love that you're giving yourself what you're passionate about right now, because you deserve that so much, my dear. You deserve that. And then later, because we go through seasons, we go through chapters, and you are in a window right now. You're definitely young and healthy, and you have this time right now where you get to go after what you are so passionate about. So I love that you're doing that. That's so great. Yes, good decision. Good. All right. Well, thank you both so much for being an example of unconditional love to me. This is what unconditional love looks like. And I think I know it is so beautiful. So thank you for inspiring us and for being such amazing humans on planet Earth. And congratulations, my dear, for your exoneration, is that a word? I know you were exonerated, so I don't know if I said that right, but for being exonerated and really the truth, you know, coming out, and for getting this amazing wise perspective that you gained through this hellacious experience. And now you can go and share your light with the world, and you're such a beautiful message of hope and inspiration to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thank you for joining us this week, and bye for now. Have a fabulous